There you go.
Okay, John. John. Okay, John, you recorded. That's good. Let's go ahead
Yep.
get started then. All right. I think the first topic is just to remind everybody to vote. If you can, that would be great. The deadline is in 2 days. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay, so may I propose next week we are not going to have a meeting? Would that be fair to everybody? Okay, cool. I'll put on the agenda. Apparently, I was on the wrong idea also. Okay. Conrad, you are here, right? You are next up on the agenda.
Yep, I'm here. So, really, I wanted to bring up a follow-up to last week's topic that I brought up around the CNI implementation. So, previously, we discussed the CNI agent respecting the exclude namespaces configuration to align the CNI implementation in terms of behavior. And out of that work stream from investigation for a customer and whatnot, we essentially found that the CNI health reporting implementation is pretty bare bones in terms of what's actually emitted and shown in terms of the health reporting. So I just started to do some digging in terms of other CNI implementations and how they do health reporting. And there's definitely some areas that we could improve in terms of Istio's CNI implementation. So here, I don't need to necessarily read through each of them, but I wanted to bring up sort of this as an open topic to discuss some potential improvements that we could make to our health reporting. So some of those caveats are like our liveness probe simply reports 200 every time. There's no actual logic there to give any sort of liveness information. So, and that's not even plumbed up within the daemon set for the Helm chart. So it's not actually really used from a Kubernetes perspective. So there's that piece. Some other CNI providers have much more in-depth health reporting. So this includes like the readiness probe having further diagnostic details, actually emitting a JSON body, a JSON within the body, and showing, subsystem health node conditions that the CNI can set when network is unavailable, and some specifics around there. And then Amazon VPC CNI actually takes it even further and emits structured Kubernetes events that would end up on the node itself. So users could use kubectl describe to see actual events and their details around them. And then even after that would be the Prometheus metrics for CNI health state. So some ideas here. I'm not saying we need to necessarily implement all of them, but I think having a bit more robust health reporting for the CNI would be very helpful, specifically in the circumstance where like the plugin can't communicate with the agent for some reason over UDS, or either the plugin and agent can't talk to the Kubernetes API server, as this has been a hard to figure out situation, just having to comb through logs. So really this conversation, I just wanted to get the temperature of the room, what people are thinking, if there's any pushback on this or further context.
Do we have a hand?
Yeah,
Keith.
Yeah, just quick question from my understanding. If we set node conditions, could the primary CNI overwrite us, and then we just fight back and forth with the primary CNI?
I think that is a possibility. I would have to look into that condition specifically and see whether it can be set twice or specific to each CNI or not. But that's a good call out.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big +1 on increasing making health checks actually be health checks and adding logging and observability towards the health state of the CNI. I think most of the complexity of Istio CNI comes from the fact that even though primary, like the chain CNI approach that we take with Istio CNI is supported in the CNI spec, practically most primary CNIs and even some Kubernetes itself doesn't really live in a world where you have like CNI contention in any sort of way. It's been the source of numerous headaches from node restarts. It's just not a super robust API for us to work with. So if we can add network unavailable, that would be fantastic. It actually help with things like on the ambient side. But I just want to. I'd be worried about that churn back and forth if we fight with Cilium or Kind CNI or Calico or what have you to try to talk about the status of the network.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It can definitely be something I dig into here if I proceed with this investigation.
Maybe we include a way to like turn that off if it is fighting. Like if some CNIs behave poorly and others are fine, you can opt in or opt out of it.
So the network node unavailable node condition, I'm trying to think, would other CNI be able to detect this and we could write on this? Or is there anything special would there be a scenario where Calico or Cilium doesn't report network unavailable, but we do through our CNI that reports network unavailable?
I think we would definitely have to use a different name, right? We can't use network unavailable, I don't think. Or was that the proposal and I just misunderstood?
It's just, so I put it in here just as a showing that Calico, Cilium, and I think one other actually set this node condition.
But were you proposing we set that one or we set like Z10 network available over?
I'm not saying necessarily that we need to set this specific condition.
Okay, yeah, because I think if we set that one, we're for sure going to conflict with things. If we set our own, then we should be good, but we'd want to test it, obviously. But I would suspect that's fine.
Okay, yeah, great clarification. That was what I was wondering too. I think overall, I think this is a great idea, Conrad. What's the impact for the user? I think it's pretty bad, right? When we have this health reporting not accurate, people might be, have the traffic not captured by ambient, maybe the policy are not enforced. Is that the impact?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think it mostly has to do with the actual CNI plumbing up the IP tables for the pod, and then actually ZTOL being aware of the pod itself. So, yeah, not great.
Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, so just to add a bit more context, so we've been seeing, in ambient specifically, we've been seeing issues like this around for a bit. And to John's question, I know that we'll conflict if we set network unavailable, but if we set our own condition, it won't do anything, right? Like, there's nothing watching for Z-tunnel unavailable, except I guess our stuff, but we can't stop a pod from coming up without Z-tunnel IP tables, essentially, right? That's the sort of the central problem.
So the pod becoming ready without essentially entering the ready state without IP tables and whatnot being programmed first.
Right. Like we have within Istio, we don't have a way to do that without, for example, injecting in a init container. Jackie's been working on some of this for a while. There's an issue out there. Like if that's the central problem, then I shared a link to some stuff in Kubernetes that might be helpful, but my understanding is that there's nothing we can really do unless we make, well, even in that case, if the primary CNI, yeah, like there's not much we can do if Istio CNI happens to go down. Well, if you've written the CNI config, then it'll error completely, sure. But if Istio CNI returns true to the kubelet, or if Cilium overwrites us, there's not much we can do if I'm understanding the problem correctly.
Could a node taint be used to control that pod scheduling behavior so the node simply doesn't get any pod scheduling events until the CNI is ready in that case?
Yes, we do have the taint controller already built into Istio. I don't know how widely it's used. There's actually a PR out to make the taint name configurable. I think the main thing I've seen is figuring out how to set that with cloud providers and Carpenter and how to get startup taints working on the different providers.
Yeah.
Yeah, presently it's the untaint controller. It will only remove a taint when the CNI becomes ready. But
That's right.
There's no
That's
functionality to re-add it. Not that it couldn't do something like that, just that it presently doesn't. Also, I want to maybe point out that changing the behavior of the node is maybe good, but there's a middle ground where at least we can surface the details so that someone could potentially react to it. Like they don't necessarily need to be firmly coupled.
And that surface the detail is what John was mentioning. Could potentially you have a different status on the node condition beyond network unavailable.
Yeah, or there's other things that would be valuable too. Maybe there's a metric that you can trigger off of, with like alert manager that's like, hey, by the way, this CNO node is no longer reporting ready. And that I think provides value in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just important to be clear about what we're aiming to solve. And so if it's just observability and awareness, then yeah, definitely there are things we can do there. Changing the behavior of scheduling is a tougher problem.
For sure. So maybe this can be broken up, for now we can just focus on health reporting and just, maybe emitting metrics and whatnot, improving our liveness readiness probes to be more informative. And then a follow-up, which would need more alignment for sure, would be the actual scheduling behavior and whatnot. Maybe even the node conditions too there. I think that ties in to scheduling.
Yeah, that sounds good. Is there anything else we should be discussing on this topic?
Don't think so. That's all. I just wanted to start the conversation on that. I can start on an implementation for the metrics and probe improvements, if that's fine. Doesn't need an RFC or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Conrad, feel free to reach out about the secondary like scheduling. I'm happy to talk about it more offline. Having worked on the CNI recently, I'm happy to talk about more, and we can figure out what problem we're trying to solve more concretely with the secondary part.
Alrighty. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Cora. And thank you, Jackie, to step in to help as well. Do we have any other topics? I guess our booth schedule is out for next week. So if you haven't, which I haven't also, I do encourage you to sign up for at least an hour or two if you will be there. I guess that's it for today. I guess we'll see you all in 2 weeks or in Amsterdam next week. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Safe travels if you're going.